I want everybody to know, first of all, I said to my staff this morning, I said, look, the president's going to be probably running a little late, so just build some time in there. He actually was early, which tells you the power of the idea of what we're introducing today. And about a year ago, we were here for, you brought the Clinton Global Initiative. And one of the main ideas of job creation at that time was retrofitting our public buildings and other private buildings. You could create jobs today, basic economic growth, what I call the sixth energy source. While you have oil, you have gas, you have coal, you have nuclear, you have renewable, retrofitting is the sixth energy source. And this was an opportunity, and we had discussed it before, and he had also, to all fairness, he had been pounding on this idea when I was Chief of Staff at the White House, and I could not get it done. And he'd been talking about the power of getting job creation immediately out of it with a huge amount of energy savings that would pay back and be a good boost to the economy. And we have a critical need here in this city. We have a critical need, obviously, in our state and a critical need in our country, which is we have a 21st century economy sitting on a 20th century foundation. And unless we modernize it, we ain't going to get moving. So I took his ideas on the retrofit, looked at our needs in the city. Every one of these needs could be done, but they could not be done individually. So we've amassed $200 million worth of retrofits and energy efficiencies in our schools, our public health, our cultural center, our public safety buildings. Put them all together, $20 million a startup, all paid back over time by the energy savings, and create 2,000 jobs over the next 3 years with people like carpenters that get trained right here in this facility through the, with Frank Libby and his operation here in the apprentice program. And we're using an idea of creating the first of its kind anywhere in the country of an infrastructure trust. In the past, we have a system where we've done it either by grants or tax-free bonds. Our needs are bigger than what Washington or Springfield can do anymore. We all know their money is declining. Our opportunities and our needs are growing. At some point, I can either look at that challenge and stare at it and hope it gets better, or do something about it. This is an innovation that allows you to actually create jobs today, meet the challenges of your economy of tomorrow, and do it in an innovative way that hasn't been done before. Some people have talked about increasing taxes, and that will be a part of the debate and part of what people will debate. But the infrastructure trust allows us to actually start to unlock our future, take control of our destiny, and not leave it beholden to either the problem, the challenges, or the dysfunction of either Washington or Springfield, and allow us to do what we need to do for Chicago and for our own economy. And this gives us a great opportunity, in my view, to create the jobs of today, to keep our competitiveness going, and not be tied to an old model. It's a breakout strategy for the city of Chicago and allows us to, in my view, to the best of our ability, control our own destiny. Now, just yesterday, I announced an economic plan for the city of Chicago because we basically, like the rest of the country, in my view, experienced what I call an economic lost decade. We lost on productivity, we lost on jobs. For the city of Chicago, we even lost on population. And I can't afford, and nobody in this room can afford, another lost decade to pile up on the first one. So we have to do things different, we have to do things smarter, we have to also create jobs and economic opportunity for our city and the people that pay the taxes around here. Second, in my view, while every city has to have a modern infrastructure, no city's economy relies more on a modern infrastructure than the transportation juggernaut that Chicago is. Our economy runs on rail, roads, and runways. And if we don't make these critical investments, our strategic economic advantage will be diminished. So we, more than anybody else, while everybody has the same needs, we, more than anybody else, need to make these critical investments. Washington's grant dollars over the years, last 30 years, has declined. We will fight for every dollar, but it's a declining set of dollars with a mounting set of challenges. Springfield, you know the governor could not have been more helpful in the legislature with our modernization of the Red Line. But we have needs all across the system. And they have other challenges which we need to solve, and I can't hold Chicago and Chicago's economy to Springfield and Washington. Now, we can't be independent, but we got to find our own course and take our own future into our own hands. So the Infrastructure Trust is another way, one more tool in the toolbox to shape our future, meet the challenges of our future, try to control our own destiny, and most importantly, create, in my view, the economic competitiveness and the job growth that are essential to building a modern economy. Well, thanks. Now, some of the things we'll be doing in the first project here, we have a number of banks and financial institutions, and in fact, the labor insurance company, who all have agreed to about $800 million of financing for these projects. It is a one idea. The Chamber of Commerce is for. The Chicago Federation of Labor is for. The think tanks are for. Private sector is for. The rest of organized labor, besides the Chicago Federation of Labor, the carpenters are for. Not many times you get people who usually have a disagreement about other things have an agreement. This idea has been talked about, discussed, debated for about 20 years. And its time has come, and I'm glad Chicago is going to lead the way. Canada has done it. Latin America has done it. Europe is doing it as well. Asia is doing it. This is the first time a city in the United States is going to do it. And it will help us achieve what we need to achieve. In Woodlawn Community Health Care Clinic, we'll make a $300,000 investment, and every year, in fixing its windows and retrofitting its facility, and every year it will pay back about $35,000 in energy savings. And we could not do that if we didn't do it with everything else. Office of Emergency Response, $1 million in energy retrofits, new windows, new HVAC system, other things, about $100,000 in savings and energy cost over the lifetime of that investment, on an annual basis, rather. We'll be doing it at schools. Morgan Park School will get fixed up on energy retrofit. So from our schools to our public safety, to our park facilities, to our community health care, to our cultural institutions. The Downtown Cultural Center will make a $350,000 investment in energy retrofit, create jobs, and it'll pay back $35,000 a year in energy savings. And that's the way the vehicle works, creating jobs today, energy savings, economic competitiveness, and it makes sure that Chicago takes control of its future rather than leaving it to others, or, in my view, the challenges and dysfunctionality that exists in other places. And it gives us an opportunity to do what we need to do for the people that pay the bills, people who are hungry for the work, and the businesses that need the economic efficiencies that come with investing with our infrastructure. Nothing gives me greater honor, since this is the first time, to introduce President Clinton as the mayor. He has come in and campaigned for me when I ran for Congress, came in and campaigned for me when I ran for mayor. This is the first time we've ever appeared together in any official function as the mayor, and nothing gives me greater honor to invite him at this time when we're talking about the most important thing, which is creating economic growth and job creation. Thank you very much, President Clinton, for coming.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, I'm glad to be here, Mayor, and I want to thank all the representatives of labor and business who are here, and members of the City Council and other elected officials. I was watching Rahm give this speech. I realized that I have known him for 21 years. When I secured his agreement to come to work for my presidential campaign, neither one of us had gray hair. And I'm very proud of everything he's done in public life since he left me for President Obama and the Congress, but especially as mayor. And I want to try to put what you're doing today into some larger context. First of all, in my current life, one of the things my foundation works on is climate and energy-related issues, including the retrofit of big buildings. And my climate change initiative here in Chicago has worked on the Merchandise Mart and the Daily Center. We worked on the Empire State Building in New York. We have about 250 projects in almost 50 cities all around the world. I just got back from Bogota, Colombia, where we're helping them introduce all-electric and hybrid electric buses and taxi cabs in the town. And we're putting up 140,000 LED street lights in Los Angeles. And we're trying to help them close landfills in Mexico City and Lagos, Nigeria, and Delhi, India, and generate electricity instead of methane gas that warms the atmosphere and compromises our children's future. But I wanted to be here today because what you are doing here is the first, in effect, infrastructure bank using private capital that any city in the United States has established. Now, there used to be in Washington bipartisan support for a national infrastructure bank, which would be seeded with a little taxpayer money and then would attract private capital. So, as Rahm said, all over the world except for the United States, infrastructure is built or modernized with private as well as public capital. So we're seeing Chicago lead us to do something that's been done everywhere else. And if you invest the money properly and intelligently, it's got a good rate of return. Last year, the AFL-CIO promised at the meeting we had here in Chicago in June on the American economy to raise $10 billion from around the country to do this kind of work. And we've got the first billion, and maybe we can do some work with the Chicago Infrastructure Trust now here. But Rahm already said the most important thing. I'm a big believer that when you got a problem, you pick the low-hanging fruit first. And there's all this discussion about, well, we can't afford to think about these environmental and energy problems. Now we got to put people back to work. That is the way to put people back to work. And the cheapest thing you can do is use less of it. I'll just give you an example. In the previous decade, when we were struggling with wages in America, Denmark grew its economy 76% and had no increase in equality because they didn't use any more energy. They were so efficient, they just kept getting better and better and better. Sweden grew its economy 50% and used less energy. This is a big deal. And every time you retrofit a building, you're giving back your utility company a mini power plant. Think about it. You're giving them back power which then they can use to offer as an incentive for a new business or a new factory to move to Chicago. People to start their business, and they don't have to undertake the expense of building more. This is a classic example of what works in the modern world. You get business, labor, government, all the players together, and you do something together. It's exactly the reverse of what normally happens in Washington. Conflict may be good politics, but it is lousy economics. What works in economics is networks of cooperation. You know, Illinois has the Fermi Lab here, which is the largest superconducting super collider in the United States and the second or third largest in the world. And basically what they do, if you've never been there, you ought to go look at it. Essentially, in a long, big vacuum-packed atmosphere, they fire atoms at each other and break them apart. And since no one can see atoms, much less the component parts of atoms, they measure what happens to these component parts with highly sophisticated computers. But they found something amazing last year here in Illinois that could change the whole way we think about the world. Because anybody that took high school physics was taught that all the positively charged and negatively charged elements of an atom had to be in even balance, otherwise nothing would hold together. Our bodies would float off apart. And in the Fermi Lab, they found out that one very important part of an atom called the muon, the positively charged ones, were just slightly larger than the negatively charged ones. Now, that may not mean anything to you if you're not a physicist, but just think about it. What it means is that that could explain how we evolved from single-cell organisms to be sitting in these chairs today. It could change how people think about chemistry and physics and biology. One thing found in here through a cooperative network of scientists could open up a whole new vista of jobs 10 years from now. Meanwhile, that's the kind of stuff we got to do for energy. That's the sort of stuff we have to do to put the construction workers back to work. We can't build a lot of new buildings. It would be unethical to build a lot of new houses when we got all these mortgage problems. So you go fix every building that's standing, make it more efficient, cut the power bills, put the construction workers back to work, remove a problem from the environment, and give us time to clean up this mortgage mess. This is a huge deal. And if you could do it, then every other city in this country of any size could do the same thing. And then people like me could go around to big funds of money and try to get you more help to do it. But that's really why I wanted to be here. I mean, I would always, for a lifetime, be a part of Mayor Emanuel's cheering squad. But that's not really why I wanted to come here today. I want there to be maximum publicity for something that's positive. Nobody is fighting here. And I'm just telling you that all these energy things can pay off if you can fix it so that whatever the bill is, it can be financed through the savings in the utilities. Now, you're going to start with the public buildings, and that's a good thing. When you get more and more private capital, you have to give people a rate of return. If you can fix it so that the people who benefit in their buildings can pay off whatever they owe only from their utility savings, so that even in a tough economic time, you're not writing a bigger check any month, then you have basically given America the nearest thing we can get to a free lunch to create jobs. And every state, county, and local building, every school building, every university building, every hospital, every museum, every office building without a whole lot of already piled up indebtedness. We can do this all over America. We could literally, we create more than 1 million jobs just doing this work. And the good news is that there are now simple software programs available so that when I started this work, everybody wanted to do the big projects because Johnson Controls, Siemens, Honeywell, big companies like that have very sophisticated technology. And like when we did the Empire State Building, Johnson Controls guaranteed 38% savings if certain things were done. What that meant is if their utility bill didn't go down 38 cents on every dollar, they had to make up the difference. Since most businesses like to get paid for working, they don't like to pay people for working for them, I knew we would save 40 cents or more. Today, the Empire State Building's utility bills are down 40 cents on the dollar. And now there are simple computer programs available so that a bonded contractor in a small town 30 miles from here can go into any home in that town and do a canvas for about 35 or 40 minutes and tell you, if you give me 8 hours, I'll save you 20%, I'll save you 22%, I'll save you 18%. You just tell me when you'll be gone 8 hours, I'll come in and fix it, and I'm out of here. We can do this, but there has not been sufficient organization of the investment. And so I predict to you that within 72 hours, the mayor's office will be deluged with emails from every city of any size in the United States saying, how did you get people to do this? How did they sign up? How do we do it? And since the Congress at the present time seems disinclined to establish the infrastructure bank that the president has asked for, as I said, that began as a bipartisan proposal, even number of Republican and Democratic sponsors in the Senate. We need states and cities to be able to set up their own infrastructure financing. And Chicago, once again, is leading the way. You should be very proud of yourself, and you should be very happy about this. But this is about the dignity of work. You know, if everybody in this country who wanted a job had one, we'd have about 80% fewer problems than we've got. Everybody knows that. We got a lot of other things to do, and I know what they are, but in the end, we've got to unravel this employment crisis. We've got to get banks lending again, small businesses borrowing again, and I think the two most important things we can do are to accelerate the resolution of the mortgage issues, which is a subject for another day, and put people to work on jobs that are at hand, which requires infrastructure financing. When you get done with the buildings, you can modernize the rest of the infrastructure. You can speed up the download speeds here. South Korea's are 4 times as fast as ours. And you can make Chicago the center of the American high-tech economy just by undertaking the investments here in this area that would accelerate that. There's no limit to what you can do because of this device. So thank you for doing it. Thank you for what it means for America. Thank you for what it means for giving ordinary people the hope that they can actually go back to work again and do something useful. Thank you very much.